Just like to start off with the words of Jesus. He's talking about ceremonial washing of your hands before you eat, and really kind of goes on through all the ceremonial sort of rituals that the Jewish leaders practiced at the time, the Jewish religious leaders. And Jesus starts off, "Don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? But the things that come out of the mouth come from the heart, and these make a man unclean. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, and slander. These are what make a man unclean, but eating with unwashed hands does not make him unclean." And so this is quite remarkable, because the more you think about it, the more the more the depth of what Jesus is saying there, the more the depth of what Jesus is saying there comes out. And what I've deduced from this section, and you can go into Matthew 15 and read the whole of the chapter of 15 if you want to sort of go into it a little bit deeper. But what he's saying here is actually the things that we eat go into the body and then they pass out, which is they're just a physical thing. So food, anything that we eat, whether it's good or bad for us, goes into the body, has an effect on our physical bodies, and then passes out. So the only thing I can deduce from this is that the body and the mind are connected to a degree, in that the mind, which is housed in your brain, is actually part of the body, because it's wired. Your brain, your mind is wired in with the rest of your body. It's through the nervous system. But the heart is something completely different. You see, if, for instance, if Jesus had said, well, you are what you eat, if you eat a certain thing, your heart is affected, and therefore it's the wrong sort of food that has affected your moral stance, or the way you behave, then I would say, well, yeah, I'm not drawing this conclusion from it. But the conclusion is that your heart, your spirit, is actually quite separate from the body and the mind. The body, the mind, the brain are all physical things, but the spirit is an invisible part of us. The fact that that Jesus separated the functioning of the body to the heart means that if we disregard our spirits, if we disregard our heart, that in its the state that it's in, because he was saying there that from out of the heart come evil thoughts and all those other things. So he's saying there that that the body's not affecting the heart, but all those things are in there, and they usually come out of the mouth in lying and cheating, and also what comes out of that spirit that we've got, it also translates into things that the body does, such as sexual immorality and so on. And so it all centres around your spirit, not your body and your mind, which I thought all three were connected, actually connected directly. So the body affects the spirit, the mind affects the spirit, but no, Jesus is saying something quite different here. So where does that leave us? Jesus said that anyone that simply believes in him and is willing to follow him, that their spirit is actually renewed and rebirthed, made new again. And so so that's the first step. Also, there's the baptism or the infilling of the Holy Spirit. This is where God's Holy Spirit comes into our spirit and empowers our spirit. That's interesting, isn't it? Because, for instance, there can be this case where your body and your mind are failing, as it does with all of us as we enter into old age. Our bodies and our minds start to fail, to fade away on us. But because they're not connected to the spirit that's been reborn when we believed in Jesus, the spirit can go on and be quite healthy, despite the fact that your body and your mind are passing away, are fading away, are dying. That's an interesting thing, isn't it? And it also explains why, for instance, in life, we usually equate having a good job and lots of money with happiness and fulfillment. But in fact, all those things affect the mind and the body. So in other words, having lots of money and so on allows you to buy better food and to perhaps not work in a job that affects your body and mind physically, like stress and so on. So you don't actually have to work unless you're on a bit of a treadmill there and you're wanting to. But if you had a couple of $1 million in the bank, well, you don't necessarily need to go through the struggle of earning a wage in your daily life, and so your mind could become quite healthy, clear and clean, and you could be leading quite a lovely life, a carefree life, if that's possible. But you can see what I mean. You could be physically and mentally poor, but be spiritually rich. It's an interesting thing to think about. I'll leave it there. Thank you.